Wait, what if one desperate choice changed your life forever? Imagine robbing a billionaire, only to have him steal your heart in return. This is the wild, emotional roller coaster of Emily and Daniel, and trust me, you won't believe where this story takes them. I'm Emily, a girl who grew up poor, living in the slums of South Bronx. Life was rough, and I was forced to mature early because of poverty. One night, desperate for money, I decided to rob a well-dressed, muscular man who obviously had money. I did manage to steal his cash. But that night, he ended up stealing my heart too. And that's where it all began. Can you guess what happens when a street-smart girl meets a cold-hearted billionaire? Stay tuned to Dark Voices, because this story is about to get crazier. In a cramped alley in South Bronx, Emily slept on a makeshift wooden cot while her Aunt Linda quietly hand-washed clothes in a small plastic basin. Their tiny shack was cluttered with stuff, and the roof had so many holes that every time it rained, floods would sweep into their home. "Linda, hurry up. I'm not paying you if those clothes come out wrinkled," shouted a heavy-set woman, Mrs. Bura, their neighbor, and Aunt Linda's boss. Aunt Linda lowered her head and continued washing, even though her hands were already raw and white from the soap. Emily shook her head in frustration. She was used to seeing cruelty like this, but it didn't mean she wasn't angry. She knew very well how her aunt had been exploited for years by their wealthier neighbors, who paid mere pennies for labor that was killing her aunt slowly. "Hey, Mrs. Bura," Emily said, voice sharp. "Why don't you wash your own panties? Maybe you should pay my aunt better if you expect her to kill herself over your laundry." Bura shot her a nasty glare. Well, listen to that mouth of yours. If you want to help your aunt earn more, why don't you find a real job instead of mouthing off?" Emily swallowed hard. That was exactly what she intended to do. Without wasting another second, she left their shack to look for work. She tried a fast food restaurant, a department store, even a small diner. But every place she went gave her the same answer. "Sorry, miss. You don't have any credentials," the managers would always say. Slowly, Emily walked home heavy-hearted, knowing she had nothing to bring back to her aunt. When she returned, she found Aunt Linda collapsed on the floor, gasping in pain, vomiting blood. "Aunt Linda, my God, what happened?" Emily cried as she frantically searched for any money or anything of value to bring her aunt to the hospital. But she couldn't find even a single dime. She glanced at their small savings box. It was filled with coins, not even enough to buy medicine. Desperation hit her hard. She rushed outside and walked aimlessly through the dark alleys, hoping, praying to find a way to get money. That's when she spotted him. A tall, fair-skinned man clearly lost in their neighborhood, wearing an expensive coat and shiny shoes. At one glance, she knew this man was rich. His watch alone gleamed under the streetlight, practically screaming, "Money!" Without thinking twice, she pulled the small knife from her pocket and blocked his path. "Buddy, you got lost in the wrong place. Hand over your wallet if you don't want to regret it," she snarled. Instead of panicking, the man raised an eyebrow and sized her up from head to toe. "This your idea of making a living? Kind of old-fashioned, don't you think?" he said, completely unfazed. She didn't like his tone. There was no fear or concern in his voice. "Don't test me, boss. This is a knife I'm holding, not a toothpick," she snapped. "You know, you'd get arrested way faster doing things this way." "Ever thought about just asking for help instead?" he said calmly. "And who the hell would help someone like me?" "You," she scoffed. "Don't pretend to be some saint, cut the crap, and just hand it over." The man, Daniel Carter, shook his head slightly, then took off his expensive watch and handed it to her. "If you really need the money, fine. But are you sure this is the right way?" he asked. "I don't care if it's right or wrong," she said, snatching the watch, wallet, and his phone before running away as fast as she could. She never once looked back, thinking that would be the last time she'd ever see him. But little did Emily know, it was only the beginning of her entanglement with Daniel Carter. She got home trembling but clutching the cash and valuables tightly. For the first time in a long while, there was hope. She could finally take Aunt Linda to the hospital and maybe even buy some food. When she arrived at their shack, and Linda was still lying weakly on their thin mattress, looking pale and too frail to move. All of Emily's fear and guilt over what she'd just done disappeared when she saw her beloved aunt's condition. "Aunt Linda, we have to go to the hospital now. We can't delay this anymore." "Honey, we don't have the money, not even for a checkup," her aunt whispered weakly. Emily forced a smile to hide the lump in her throat. She pulled out the money she had gotten from Daniel and placed it in her aunt's hand. "We have money now, Auntie. Don't worry. I've got it covered." Her aunt looked at her with questioning eyes, wanting to ask something, but too weak to voice it. Without wasting time, Emily helped her get up and rushed to the nearest public hospital. At the hospital, after hours of tests, the doctor confirmed Aunt Linda had a serious lung condition. She needed intensive treatment and rest. But first, they had to buy the prescribed medications. "Thank you, doctor. I'll buy the meds now," Emily said, trying to stay strong. As she walked out of the hospital, the world felt heavier than ever. The money she had wasn't enough. Not for the medicines, the hospital bills, or even for their daily needs. It was all way beyond what she could afford. But she swore to herself she wouldn't go back to stealing. The next morning, Emily woke up early to search for a job again. She walked from one establishment to another, fast food chains, department stores, even wet markets. But all she heard was the same response. "Sorry, miss. We don't have any job openings right now," said one manager. "We need someone with work experience," another said. "Do you at least have a high school diploma?" an HR personnel asked. Rejection after rejection piled up. Emily clutched her growling stomach, the hunger biting harder with every passing hour. Time flew by, and still she found no decent job. She walked home, her body aching from hunger, her heart weighed down by disappointment. By nighttime, she wandered through the dark alleyways deep in thought. She considered going back to Daniel to return the items she had stolen. But what if he turned her into the cops? What if he didn't believe her? She could end up in even worse trouble. While she was lost in thought, a black van suddenly stopped beside her. She instinctively prepared to run, but it was too late. A strong arm grabbed her, and before she could resist, a wet cloth was pressed over her nose. Within seconds, her world went dark. The light in the room where Emily woke up was dim. She slowly opened her eyes, her head pounding. She realized her hands were tied to a chair and immediately struggled. "What the hell is this? Why am I tied up? Where am I?" She tried to move her hands, but the rope was tight. She didn't know which emotion was stronger, fear or rage. She scanned her surroundings. It wasn't a place she expected to be afraid of. It was bright, clean, and nothing like the cramped, dirty spaces she had grown up in back in the South Bronx. There was a large window covered with white curtains, and the room smelled faintly of expensive perfume. "Wait, this isn't a police station. It feels more like a hotel." Moments later, the door opened, and when she saw who walked in, her world crumbled. "So, you're awake?" Daniel said casually. "How was your sleep?" "You? What the hell is this? Why am I here? Why did you tie me up?" "Relax, girl. I'm not going to hurt you if that's what you're thinking." "What is this? Kidnap for ransom? I don't have any money." She struggled violently against the chair, but one cold look from Daniel was enough to make her freeze. "You talk too much," he said calmly. "I'm not asking for ransom. I didn't kidnap you for money. I kidnapped you for justice." "Justice? What justice?" she spat, furious. "You really have the nerve to ask," he said with a mocking chuckle. "Maybe you forgot. You robbed me." Emily's eyes widened. She couldn't speak. She never expected the man she held up would go this far. "You thought I looked pathetic enough to rob, huh?" Daniel said, stepping closer. "You could have chosen anyone, but you chose me. And now you're wondering why you're here. It's simple. You stole from me, and now you're going to pay." "Pay? I thought you said you didn't want ransom," she shouted. I don't want money. Emily swallowed hard. Fear gripped her chest. Then what do you want? She asked. Daniel leaned closer, placing one hand firmly on the chair beside her, bringing his face close enough that she could smell his expensive cologne. I want to marry you. Emily's jaw dropped. What did you say? We're getting married. You're insane, she shouted. I don't even know you. And besides, I'm a criminal, remember? Why would you marry someone like me? It's simple. I have a business matter to take care of and I need to get married immediately. I chose you. I refuse. I don't care how rich you are. I'm not that kind of woman. I'm not selling myself to a man like you. Daniel's expression darkened. Then I'll have you thrown in jail, he said coldly. Emily's body went rigid. And not just you. I'll have your Aunt Linda arrested, too. No, she cried. Leave her out of this. She has nothing to do with it. I know, Daniel said, his voice calm but firm. But in this situation, you have no choice. If you want to continue living your miserable street life, scraping by and hunting for your next victim, fine. But if you want to change your fate, come with me. You'll have more than you ever dreamed of. Why me? You could find some rich girl to marry, someone your equal. Because I want to teach you a lesson, he said. I don't want someone weak. I want a woman with fire, and that's you. You want to teach me a lesson by marrying me? That's insane. I don't like repeating myself, Daniel said coolly. You have 1 week to decide. Refuse, and once you walk out that door, you'll be walking straight into prison with your aunt. Emily couldn't speak. She was shaking with anger, but she knew she was trapped. If Daniel really had power, prison would be a walk in the park for him. He could easily paint her as a dangerous criminal. Choose wisely, Emily, Daniel said. I'm not joking. For the first time in her life, she had no plan, no strategy, and worst of all, no way out. She had no choice but to accept Daniel Carter's insane proposal. The two of them discussed the setup. Emily was surprised by the things Daniel was saying. So, you're telling me you're sending me home tonight and picking me up tomorrow to live in your house? Like you're some kind of prince giving orders? First of all, you don't have a choice, Daniel said bluntly. Second, it's not like I'm thrilled about this either, but I'd rather keep you where I can see you. Make sure you don't run away. I don't like complications. I'm not going to run. I promise. Promises aren't good enough. Tomorrow, I'm picking you up. Say your goodbyes to Aunt Linda. The next day, Daniel arrived at their shack in a luxurious black car, wearing dark sunglasses, waiting outside. The neighbors were stunned, whispering among themselves as they peeked out from their homes. Who's that? One neighbor asked. Looks like a movie star, a teenager commented. Cut it out, Emily snapped, glaring at them. I don't have a choice with this guy. She climbed into the car, scowling at Daniel. This is your fault. Now the whole neighborhood is gossiping about me. Someone probably went live on Facebook. I don't care about gossip, Daniel said. Of course you don't. You're not the one being laughed at, Emily hissed. What the hell have I gotten myself into? When they arrived at Daniel's house, Emily's mouth literally dropped open. It wasn't just a mansion. It was massive. Don't tell me I'm living here. Your living room's big enough to play soccer in. It even echoes. Hello, she shouted, her voice bouncing off the walls. Stop yelling, Daniel said, irritated. Just pick a room. Really? I can choose? You don't have a choice. You'll be sleeping in my room. What? You said I could choose. Choose where you want to sleep in the room. You can sleep on the floor if you want, he said nonchalantly. But since we're married on paper, I'm not explaining to everyone why we have separate rooms. I'm putting a wall of pillows between us, Emily snapped. You're not allowed to come near me. Don't worry. I have no plans to. That night, Emily busied herself building a great wall of pillows in the middle of the bed, stacking at least a dozen pillows between them. "You're crazy," Daniel muttered. "Don't flatter yourself. I'm not crossing over." "Good," Emily said proudly. The next morning, Daniel was in his home office reading documents when Emily barged in carrying a big plastic basin. "What the hell are you doing?" "I'm doing laundry. We have a washing machine." "I'm not used to machines. I'll do it by hand." "Just use the machine. Don't turn my house into a laundromat." "Our house, remember?" Emily said with a smirk. "Correction, my house." "Wow, you're so rude." At dinner, Daniel sat down at the table and froze. In front of him was homemade soup, fried fish, and rice. "What is this?" he asked. "I cooked it." "Don't be picky." "It's delicious," Emily said. "I don't eat street food." "This isn't street food. Does it look like grilled chicken intestines to you? And besides, it's free. What's your problem? Why would I eat something I didn't ask for?" "You sound like a spoiled brat." "Just eat it, period." "Don't order me around," Daniel snapped. "Don't be a diva. You want 5-star chef meals? Too bad. Eat." In the end, Daniel reluctantly tasted the food. And to his surprise, it wasn't just edible. It was actually good. Not bad," he mumbled. "Not bad? It's delicious. I'm the master chef of our block." "Shut up and eat," Daniel said, hiding a slight smile. In the days that followed, they never stopped bickering. From how to wash dishes to what kind of music to play in the mornings. "Don't play instrumental music in the morning. It makes me sleepy," Emily complained. "Better than your noisy pop songs blasting at 7 a.m., Daniel countered. "Your house is so gloomy. It's like living in a museum. Better than a circus." But despite the constant arguing, even Daniel was surprised to find that he wasn't annoyed. In fact, he secretly enjoyed Emily's noisy presence. He had grown so used to silence. Now he found himself smiling when she got riled up. That night, as they slept on opposite sides of the bed, with the wall of pillows still between them, Emily warned, "Better not cross the pillow line." "You're not attractive," Daniel said flatly. "Please, you think you're handsome, but your attitude stinks. Just go to sleep, you jerk." "You too," Daniel said, and for the first time in a long time, he fell asleep smiling. The next day, Daniel brought Emily to a famous wedding planner to discuss their upcoming wedding. Even though there were no emotions behind the ceremony, Daniel wanted everything to be perfect because he was a Carter and he didn't do anything halfway. Meanwhile, Emily still couldn't believe she was about to get married without even going through a real courtship. "Why does this have to be so grand? We could just get it over with at City Hall, sign some papers, and be done," she complained. "I'm a Carter. I'm not letting my wedding look cheap," Daniel replied curtly. "Wow, look at you, Mr. Moneybags. But seriously, why not just keep it simple?" "Because I want to see your face while you wear the designer wedding gown you'll be picking out today," he said bluntly. Emily's mouth dropped open. She was confused. This man was grumpy and cold one moment and then he'd say something like that. They started browsing through wedding gowns at an exclusive boutique, surrounded by the most expensive and elegant dresses. "How the hell do you even wear something like this? I feel like a lumpier wrap." "I can't breathe," Emily complained. "Humph, you're the only woman I know who complains while being dressed in the most beautiful gowns," Daniel said, annoyed. "Because it's so tight and the skirt is heavy. How am I supposed to run in this?" "Why would you need to run? Planning to escape the wedding?" "Maybe," she said with a mischievous glint. Daniel chuckled slightly, but quickly hid his smile. He didn't want Emily to realize how much she was affecting him. After gown fitting, they went straight to a 5-star hotel to sample dishes for the wedding reception. When Emily saw the food laid out before them, she frowned deeply. "What's this? Why are there leaves on my food? Shouldn't leaves only be in salads?" Don't tell me this is your first time seeing gourmet dishes, Daniel said. Of course I know what gourmet is, but why is there so little food? It's like diet food. And where's the rice? Not all dishes come with rice, Daniel said, already bracing himself for a headache. The food of rich people is so depressing. How do you even get full? Daniel clenched his jaw, trying not to lose his patience. It was amazing how ignorant Emily was about the elite world, but somehow he found her innocence refreshing. Kate was different, and Daniel didn't know how to handle it. That night, they returned to Daniel's mansion, exhausted. Emily immediately set up her fortress of pillows again between them on the bed. What is that? A wall? Why? To keep you from coming near me while we sleep, she said proudly. I'm not going to eat you, Emily. You never know. Maybe you've got a secret agenda. Daniel sighed, took off his coat, and lay down on the bed without another word, ignoring Emily's paranoia. You're overthinking. Just go to sleep, he muttered. Whatever happens, don't you dare cross this line. In the middle of the night, Emily didn't realize that her wall of pillows had fallen. Tired and half asleep, she didn't even notice when Daniel rolled over and hugged her. She froze. She could feel the warmth of his body, the scent of his cologne, and the rhythm of his breathing. She became stiff as a statue. Daniel was still sound asleep. She tried to move, but his grip only tightened as if he didn't want to let her go. Emily swallowed hard. She didn't know what to do. Should she scream, get mad, stay still? In the end, she closed her eyes and decided to let it be. After all, what choice did she have? As Daniel continued to hold her in his sleep, Emily realized that strangely she felt comforted. She didn't know what it meant, and she wasn't ready to think about it just yet. The whole day, Emily had nothing to do inside the mansion. She was used to the cramped, chaotic life in South Bronx. So, being stuck in such a huge, quiet house made her feel like she was imprisoned. She also didn't know why it seemed like there was no one else around except for a few household staff she barely ever saw. Since she was bored, she decided to clean. She roamed around every corner of the mansion, inspecting the expensive furniture and decorations until she wandered into a room filled with bookshelves stacked with books and documents. This guy has way too much paperwork. It's like a national library in here, she muttered. She frowned when she noticed a folder with Daniel's name on it. She didn't really care for documents, but when she caught sight of one paper dated March 31st, she froze. Wait, March 31st? That's today. Only then did it hit her. It was Daniel's birthday. Her boredom quickly disappeared and was replaced with an idea. She didn't know much about giving gifts, but she could cook. Without wasting time, she rushed to the kitchen to find ingredients. She decided to bake a carrot cake, her favorite cake since she was a child. She had no idea if Daniel would like it, but she didn't care. She made it with love, despite how annoying he could be. As she worked the electric mixer, she couldn't help but think, it must be so sad if no one celebrates your birthday. What am I doing? I'm feeling sorry for him. No wonder he's so grumpy. He's got no friends. After 2 hours of baking and preparing, she finally finished the cake and placed it on an ice tray. She also cooked some homemade dishes, grilled pork, shrimp stew, and spring rolls. When she saw all the food laid out, she smiled proudly. Wow, it looks like a fancy feast. Who knew I could make a fancy spread? To add to the surprise, she also bought some balloons and decorated the dining area. There wasn't anything extravagant about it, but the simple setup was filled with genuine joy. That evening, Daniel came home from work. The moment he stepped inside the house, Emily jumped out and yelled, "Happy birthday, Mr. Grump." Daniel froze mid-step. His eyes widened when he saw the decorations, the balloons, the food, and a cake with candles in the middle. Emily stood there smiling, holding the cake. What? What is all this? What do you think? It's your birthday. Don't pretend you didn't know. How did you even find out? Maybe your house has secrets, she teased. I just snooped around your library a little. Daniel shook his head, almost smiling. He hadn't celebrated his birthday in years. Since childhood, it had been just another day. Nothing special. You didn't have to do all this, he said. I know, but I wanted to. If you want to throw it all away, be my guest. But I'm eating. Daniel couldn't help the slight smile that tugged at his lips. He sat at the dining table surveying the spread. Did you really cook all of this? He asked. Of course. I'm not like other people who just boss others around. Maybe it's poisoned, though. You're ridiculous. There's only one way to find out. Taste it. Daniel picked up a spring roll and bit into it. He wasn't sure if it was because he was hungry or because of the taste, but he actually liked it. Not bad, he said. Not bad? Say it's delicious, Emily demanded. It's good, he admitted. There, happy? Now shut up and eat. For the first time, they weren't fighting. Emily watched him happily as he ate. After dinner, she brought the cake closer to him. Come on, make a wish and blow out the candle. I'm not a kid, Emily. Come on, it doesn't matter how old you are. Everyone can make a wish. Daniel sighed heavily but closed his eyes. He didn't even know what to wish for. But when he opened his eyes and saw Emily smiling at him, he suddenly knew exactly what he wanted. I made my wish, he said. He blew out the candle and Emily clapped like a little kid. Yay! Happy birthday, Mr. Grump. Daniel just shook his head, but he couldn't hide the smile on his face. That night, while they sat in the living room, Emily chatted on about how tired she was from cooking, cleaning, and baking the cake. You know, I almost got baked in that oven. It was so hot I thought I'd melt, but somehow I pulled it off. You don't even know how much effort I put in. Daniel watched her, barely listening to her rambling. He was just looking at her. He realized something that moment. He wanted Emily in his life forever. Meanwhile, Emily had dozed off, completely exhausted. In the middle of the night, she felt something moving beside her. She opened her eyes slowly and saw Daniel reaching over to pull down the pillow wall between them again. What the hell are you doing? She whispered sharply. Daniel didn't even flinch when he got caught. What's wrong if I want to hug you? He said calmly. Emily froze, her heart pounding. She didn't know if he was joking or serious. Are you crazy? She hissed. You're the one saying that you don't like me, he said with a lazy smirk. Emily's face turned bright red. Daniel chuckled quietly when he saw her embarrassment. She turned her back to him, hugging her pillow tightly like a shield. The next morning, while they were eating breakfast, everything seemed normal. Emily sat across from Daniel, casually scooping rice onto her plate. But then Daniel suddenly said, "Make a carrot cake later and have it sent to my office." Huh? Why? I want something to snack on in the afternoon. What? Didn't you just tell me yesterday you don't eat random food? Didn't you say you wanted to be a good wife? And when did I agree to that? Yesterday. Remember? You even bought balloons and all that. Fine. I'll make it. But don't complain if it doesn't turn out good. Just make sure it's delicious, demanding woman, Daniel said, chuckling. Emily just rolled her eyes and continued eating. When Daniel left, she immediately searched for the ingredients to bake the carrot cake. She made sure it would taste great. But even as she mixed the batter, she wondered why she was actually enjoying it. Why was she feeling happy doing things that made Daniel smile? Wasn't she supposed to be mad at him? After baking and cooling the cake, she carefully placed it in a box and went to Daniel's office. Upon arriving, she was immediately greeted by the receptionist. "Ma'am, do you have an appointment with Mr. Carter?" No, but I'm his wife, so I guess I can just go in." The receptionist's eyes widened in shock. Even the employees around them stared at her in disbelief. "All right, ma'am. I'll let him know," the receptionist said hesitantly. Emily just smiled and confidently walked toward Daniel's office. Before she could enter, she heard voices from inside. Daniel, when are you properly introducing your wife to us? Why such a sudden marriage? I don't owe you any explanations about my decisions, Daniel replied curtly. Emily pushed the door open with a big grin on her face, holding the box of carrot cake. Surprise! You said you wanted a snack, so here it is. Daniel and the older man he was speaking to exchanged glances. The older man, who looked like an important business partner, studied Emily from head to toe. So, you're Daniel's wife? He asked. Yep, I'm Emily. And you are? I'm Mr. Suarez, one of your husband's business partners. Nice to meet you, Mr. Suarez. I hope you like me, Emily said brightly. Daniel couldn't help but shake his head at her candidness. She was so different from the women he used to deal with, those who were always overly formal or pretentious. You seem like a lively young lady. I wouldn't have thought you were Daniel's type, Mr. Suarez said. Right. I didn't think I'd end up marrying him either. Imagine one day I was struggling on the streets and now I'm a wife. Crazy, huh? Mr. Suarez raised an eyebrow at Daniel. Daniel narrowed his eyes at Emily, silently telling her to stop talking. Kidding. Anyway, I'll just leave the cake here. Make sure you eat it, okay? Don't let it go to waste. All right. Stop talking now, Daniel muttered. Can't handle the fact that I'm your favorite now, huh? Emily teased as she walked out of the office. Daniel could only shake his head and laugh quietly. She's a different kind of woman, Mr. Suarez said in amazement. Yeah, Daniel agreed, watching her leave. But deep inside, he knew Emily was slowly becoming the most important part of his life. And what scared him the most was that he didn't know how he would ever live without her. The next day, Emily stood in front of an amusement park, looking like a little kid seeing a carnival for the first time. There was no one else around, only the colorful lights and huge rides proving that it wasn't a dream. Daniel, are you serious? What do you think? I don't joke around. You rented the whole amusement park. Why? I just didn't want to hear you whining around the house. I'd rather hear you scream on rides, Daniel said dryly. You're unbelievable sometimes. You're actually sweet, Carter. Unable to help herself, Emily hugged him tightly. Daniel stiffened, shocked at her reaction. After a moment, he awkwardly hugged her back. What's this? Payment for the rent? No, I'm just happy. This is my first time at an amusement park. Really? Yeah, we were too poor to afford things like this. Kids in New York City always had fairs everywhere, but for us, this was just a dream. Daniel noticed the sparkle in her eyes. Such a simple thing brought her so much happiness. He couldn't help but smile. Come on, let's try all the rides before you start crying with joy. Excuse me, I'm not a wimp. No ride can scare me. We'll see. First they tried the Ferris wheel. As their gondola climbed higher, Emily couldn't help but squeal. From the top they could see the whole city sparkling under the night sky. You know, Daniel, New York looks beautiful from up here, she said softly. Told you not everything in the city is ugly. Sometimes it's just about perspective. Kind of like you. You look grumpy, but you're sweet inside. Cut it out. After the Ferris wheel, they tried the roller coaster, bumper cars, and even the haunted house. But the most unforgettable ride was the drop tower. Okay, no backing out, Daniel warned. Please, I'm braver than you. We'll see who screams first. As the ride plummeted from the top, Daniel was almost deafened by Emily's shriek. When the ride ended, he burst out laughing. I thought you said you weren't scared. I just screamed a little. You, on the other hand, went silent. Admit it, you were scared, too. I wasn't scared. I just don't like screaming. Excuses. Exhausted, they sat on a bench eating cotton candy. Daniel hadn't laughed like this in years. He couldn't even remember the last time he had enjoyed himself this much. While looking at Emily, he noticed some cotton candy stuck on her lips. "You're messy," he said. Before Emily could dodge, Daniel reached over and wiped the sugar off the corner of her mouth. Emily froze. She felt her heart pounding against her chest. "You're being cheesy all of a sudden. You're the one who can't eat properly," he teased. Emily couldn't even answer. There was something different in Daniel's eyes, something intense, but he wasn't saying it out loud. Throughout the night, Emily felt that Daniel didn't see her as just a responsibility anymore, but she knew she couldn't allow herself to fall too deep. Weeks passed and Daniel had completely fallen for Emily, but the deeper his feelings grew, the more Emily started pulling away. "Why are you avoiding me?" Daniel asked one night. "I'm not," Emily replied quickly. "You don't even fight with me anymore. The other day I asked you to cook and you didn't even complain. Maybe you're just less annoying now." Daniel stared at her unconvinced. Deep inside, Emily was terrified. Over the past 3 weeks, she had realized that she had fallen for Daniel, and that scared her more than anything else. Their wedding was coming up fast and she already had a plan. She was going to run away before she could become his wife for real. What Emily didn't know was that Daniel had plans, too. Plans to make their marriage real. As their wedding day approached, Emily spent every moment cherishing their time together. She cooked his favorite meals, massaged his back when he came home tired, and always smiled when they were together. She couldn't deny it anymore. She was going to miss her paper husband. Daniel, on the other hand, had no idea about her escape plan. All he knew was that each day he was falling deeper for her. His once quiet life had been replaced with noise, laughter, and chaos. And he never wanted it to end. That night, while Emily was washing dishes in the kitchen, Daniel suddenly hugged her from behind. She jumped slightly but didn't pull away. "What's with you?" she said, trying to sound annoyed. "I just wanted to hug you," he murmured. Emily sighed heavily. He was only making this harder. "Why do you make me so nervous sometimes?" "Because I just want to feel you close before tomorrow," Daniel whispered. Emily smiled sadly, knowing tomorrow would be the day she left him. After she finished cleaning up, she went to the living room where Daniel was lounging on the couch. "Come here," he said, beckoning her with a hand. She hesitated, but sat down next to him. In an instant, Daniel grabbed her hand and pulled her closer until their faces were inches apart. "What are you doing? I want to remember this night." Her cheeks flushed. Daniel's gaze was intense, filled with emotions she couldn't read. He gently cupped her face, and Emily's heart nearly stopped. When he lowered his lips to hers, she didn't resist. The kiss was slow and deep, full of emotions they hadn't yet spoken. As they gave in, Daniel's fingers tangled in her hair, and Emily clung to him like she never wanted to let go. That night, it wasn't just physical. It was everything. Daniel gently caressed her body, removing her nightgown and kissing her deeply. His hands massaged her chest, pinching her sensitive peaks until she whimpered. Emily bit her lip as Daniel kissed her neck, moving downward. Like a starving man, he suckled and licked at her, making her shiver with pleasure, his tongue dancing expertly. Emily gasped and moaned uncontrollably as Daniel teased and sucked on her sensitive bud. When he finally positioned himself, he entered her slowly, stretching her until she thought she would break. He was big, and it hurt at first, but soon the pain melted into something far more dangerous. Pleasure. Daniel watched her closely, mesmerized by the way she responded to him. When it was over, Daniel held her tightly, their bodies tangled together. Neither spoke, but Emily could hear his heart pounding against her skin. She tried to convince herself that this would be the last time she'd feel his arms around her because tomorrow she would leave. The next day was their wedding day. At the crack of dawn, Emily sneaked out of the mansion. She stood by the door, looking back one last time at the sleeping Daniel. Her chest ached, but she couldn't let herself get caught. She had to leave. When she got to Aunt Linda's house, she immediately packed their things. "What's going on, Emily? Why are we leaving so suddenly?" Aunt Linda asked, confused. "I can't stay there, Auntie. We have to leave before Daniel finds us. Her aunt didn't press further. She knew that if Emily had decided something, it was serious. Meanwhile, Daniel woke up and noticed Emily was gone. Panic gripped him as he searched the entire mansion. Emily, where are you? When he couldn't find her, his heart raced. He tried calling her, but her phone was off. A terrible feeling settled in his chest. No, she can't be gone, he muttered. Frantic, he rushed downstairs where one of the housekeepers was nervously waiting. Where's Emily? He demanded. She left early this morning, sir. With a bag, the housekeeper said. Daniel's chest tightened painfully. He couldn't believe it. Emily had left him on their wedding day. Why, Emily? Why did you do this? Meanwhile, Emily and Aunt Linda had reached a small rest house in upstate New York. Sitting outside, Emily stared out at the wide fields. We'll start over here, Auntie, far from everything. Are you sure about this? It looks like you love Daniel. Won't you regret this? Her aunt asked. Emily lowered her head, hiding her tears. I know I love him, but I can't force myself on someone who might not feel the same. While they talked, Daniel was tearing apart Emily's old home in South Bronx. Everything was gone. It felt like someone had stabbed him repeatedly. I'm not letting you go, Emily. Using his resources, Daniel had Emily's phone tracked. It only took a few hours before he found out where she was. Upstate New York. So that's where you're hiding. Without thinking twice, he jumped into his car and raced toward her. He didn't care about the wedding anymore. He just wanted her back. At the rest house, Emily sat quietly watching the sky. Daniel, I hope I can forget you, she whispered. But she didn't know. He was already on his way. It was already dark when Daniel arrived. Without hesitation, he jumped out of his car and marched to the door. He knocked several times. Emily, I know you're in there. Let's talk. After a few moments, the door opened and Emily stood there shocked. But her shock quickly turned into anger. What are you doing here? What do you think? I'm looking for you. Well, you're wasting your time. There's nothing for you here. Go home. I'm not leaving. I'm not letting you walk away from me like this. Emily stepped closer, her eyes burning. You have to stop it, Daniel. We're done. You don't even stop it yourself, you don't need to marry me. I don't want this. I don't want you. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, struggling to stay calm. Look me in the eyes, and tell me you feel nothing for me, he said. Emily froze. She couldn't meet his gaze, and that was all the answer he needed. See, you can't even say it. Her voice was shaky. Even if you can't have feelings, Daniel, I can't. Our marriage would only be on paper. What do I have to offer you, me, because of a contract? Because I love you, Emily, he said, shouting. Emily's eyes widened, in shock. She almost laughed at the absurdity of it, but she held back the tears instead. I don't believe you, she said bitterly. I don't believe anything in anything anymore. Hearing that felt like hitting a punch to Daniel's gut, but he didn't back down. I'm not leaving back, he said, furiously. Emily shoved him away from me. You can't want me here. Get out. I don't want you here. I need you to leave now. Daniel didn't budge an inch. He stood there calmly, but with fire in his eyes on. I'm not leaving you unless you want to talk to me. If you can't, I won't, he said firmly, I'll sleep here on this couch. I don't care about anything else. Emily screamed and slammed the door in his face right then. The next morning early, Emily got up quietly to slip away. When she walked into the living room, you won't believe it, on her, Daniel was lying awkwardly on that old, creaky couch, completely unbothered by the rough conditions around. She sighed so heavily. You're so unbelievably stubborn, she muttered. Daniel opened his eyes and grinned wide at Emily. Good morning, he chirped brightly. Good morning, my ass, she snapped right back. Leave, now, Daniel. He just grinned wider and stood up slowly. Later, he said casually. I'm helping out around this place first. What kind of nonsense is this? She asked, baffled. You don't even know how to do basic chores. He shrugged it off, carefree. You'll never know unless you let me give it a try. Emily shook her head, so frustrated in disbelief. Fine, do whatever you want then, she huffed. She stormed to the kitchen to start breakfast, and later she caught Daniel outside, clumsily carrying a heavy bucket of water. What the hell are you doing now? She demanded. Helping out, he said, sitting beside her casually like it was no big deal. Seriously? You really don't even know how to do laundry? She asked, incredulous. Nope, but you can teach me how, he replied with a cheeky grin. You're absolutely unbelievable, she exclaimed. Daniel just smiled, unfazed. I know, he said, still smiling wide. While they washed clothes together, they kept teasing each other back and forth. Emily couldn't help but notice that no matter how hard she pushed him away, Daniel didn't budge an inch. He didn't leave her side. He was so sincere in every word, every gesture he made. After hours of chores, they finally finished up. Emily stood with her hands on her hips, eyeing Daniel's soaked clothes. You look like a drenched chicken, she laughed. But you can't deny you're impressed, right? Daniel teased back. Emily noticed his hands, rough and red from the soap and water. Something stirred deep in her chest. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry at this point.